I was like, wow, like, simple practices is like, obviously you don't want to be buying green candles. You want to, like, when the prices go down and you actually believe in the equity or the stock or the crypto, then you DCA into it. But, the market was quite different at the time. So there wasn't much, analysis of it. So what I did is like the during the 2017 cycle, during the 2017 cycle, the fundamentals were pretty, you know, pretty hazy there, man. I mean, it was like between, like vapor. It was like a thin line between vaporware and a real project, and that was like on everything, Ethereum included, like everything, Bitcoin. I mean, it was all just like a hazy line, and I think this is one of the reasons why you had so much bullshit. Where like versus this cycle, it's a lot more versus it's more greed. Like we sometimes we invest into projects knowing that they're kind of bullshit, but like the greed, and then there's like a game theory to it. So you like everyone's playing a game that everyone's kind in the background knows like it's a game. We're all like kind of like dun dun. We're all playing musical chairs a little bit with some of these projects. Some, obviously not the whole portfolio, right? Because there's a bit of portfolio distribution and stuff like that, and like protection. But people take shots versus back then, it all looked like bullshit, which was quite so like I got to see like the actual maturation of like peak like peak coins being just nothing but white papers, and like if we're lucky a shitty website. I mean like like no working product, all promises, bullshit basically, and like like $500 million market cap. Especially when the market was way smaller at the time. So that should let you know how inflated things were at the time. So, um, yeah, it's just that sort of thing. So so as so from there, right? I'm just this DCC probably in August of 2016. I'm just looking at Bitcoin. Obviously, I haven't invested, but I just keep hearing a couple of I'm starting to hear bubblings because I'm in the equities market and I'm in the millennial side of the equities market, right? Which is all the millennial YouTubers who were talking about stocks and stuff, which wasn't that many. So it was a pretty sort of a tight knit sort of cunty community with each other, because obviously some of them were cool, some of them were like, that guy's not as good as me, all that jazz, right? Competitive. And I was hearing bubblings of crypto. I was hearing crypto stuff, this, crypto stuff, that. And I was like, okay, okay, cool, cool, cool. And so it made me do this whole deep dive research. I researched it for 2, 3 months before I decided to get in December, basically. Um, I just had this whole thing where, around Thanksgiving, I just felt like this energy of like a lot of crypto talk. And I was like, whoa, it really like, that's what really caught me because, you had a 2016 year gain of in crypto, and it wasn't as large as 2017, but it was big enough where some people came home from Thanksgiving, and you had that first Thanksgiving effect that I noticed in the macro. And I was like, "Whoa, this is pretty crazy." And it was mostly centered around BTC. I very very rarely heard about like Ethereum or much other coins. I heard a little bit about Doge or Litecoin, but you didn't really hear much at all about Ethereum or any of these other coins really up until like you started getting into like I would say like April of 2017. So first thing I did is I just jumped in to the deep end of the pool and started listening to all the doctrine. So now, people who grew up in this cycle are more about yielding and everything like that. Back then, it was about percentages of the entire supply. Percentages. So one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin, right? It was like that whole, it was like an era, like I'm still tainted by it, you basically, the where you get it into crypto, you get imprinted basically, just like if you there's this whole thing in like psychology where like depending on like when the first time you ever get sexually active or like that, you kind of build up a lot of the stuff that you actually like for the rest of your life. Basically, it's the same sort of thing. In like I got imprinted sort of on the equity side from like for stock picking and things like that, and then basically over here on the crypto side, I got indoctrinated with the whole hodling, stacking sats and chill, you know, all that jazz and stuff like that, as well as like, but and sort of this whole thing about really believing in a token and stuff like that and everything like that. So obviously, funnily enough, obviously being like a stock picker and stuff like that, the first crypto I ever bought was actually Litecoin because narratives basically. So like this had worked for me really well in the equities market. So um, I was like, okay, I'm buying a coin that has 4 times more of the supply of BTC, and one day it's going to be one Litecoin for Litecoin, one BTC in value or something like that during the peak. So obviously pretty funny now, but there was this whole thing about like, dude, if you get one Bitcoin, you're gonna be rich forever. Like there's this many